Back live on the National Soccer Network, a quarter of the way to 300 episodes here on Inside the Game. My camera is way too high. There we go. Way too much headspace on the top there. And there we go. So we are back in action here for episode 225 this week. Appreciate you guys hopping in. Had the Super Bowl yesterday. Ryan, I know we're going to talk about some comparisons between that and the World Cup. From a viewership perspective, it's not even close. I mean, the World Cup is obviously tops of the list, but how was your weekend? Did you enjoy the Super Bowl? What did you enjoy from the Super Bowl? I know the game itself was kind of lame. I want to talk about that certainly coming up later on. Just didn't really get into it all that much personally. I didn't think there was a whole lot of star power, to be completely honest with you. But obviously we saw Seahawks win the Super Bowl. So I guess in one way or another got their get back from a decade ago. But what was your takeaway from what you saw yesterday?
My takeaway would be, well, what I wanted to come true came true. And Seahawks win. And if in 15 years Mike McDonald needs a job, Michigan football has head coaching vacancy, well, there you go, Mike McDonald. And he doesn't have to, and we don't have to have the Harbaugh rumors to the NFL every single year if McDonald comes back, because guess what? He's got a Lombardi. But no, I thought overall everything sucked about the Super Bowl. I thought it was trash. I think the only thing that was beneficial about it is I had some Detroit Wing Company before the game, and that was really about it. Outside of that, everything else was pretty buns. The product on the field, trash. Oh, the flyover was pretty cool. I'll give you Green Day. They're
Always
pretty
is.
good. Weird having all the NFL players on the stage with them. That just looked awkward. But outside of that, outside of Green Day and the flyover, can't really think of anything else that was pretty good. Outside of that, everything was pretty trash.
It was, it was an uneventful game, and we have 4 field goals going late into the game. It's like, really, like this is something I would expect from like a Monday night game between two teams that are
That's
irrelevant.
Basically what it was.
It was like one of those
disguised.
Yeah, but on the biggest stage of the sport, which was just like, damn it, man. Like I get it. Good defense wins. You know, we talk about it all the time. Good defense will get you there. And in order to win big games, you have to have good defenses, but that's all it was. It was just a defensive game through and through. And so it's tough to sit and like actually want to consume that. The other side of it is too, we don't have to go into length on this at all, but man, it's just, I think corporations have just kind of taken over the commercials when it comes to the Super Bowls. And now they're just like, all of them have like a deeper meaning, and they're all like heavily, funded by people who have, certain ideas that they want to put out there. Like, they're just not funny anymore. Like, is it just me, or have we just entered an era in which, like, the commercials during the Super Bowl, like, you can't even get excited about them anymore? Like, those days are done. Like, I remember the old, like, Doritos and, like, Skittles commercials. Like, some of them really, like, towed the line. Like, really genuinely, like, towed the line of, like, is this okay or is this not okay? And the majority of the commercials, I felt like then were kind of like that. Like, I don't know how that one quite made the cut. But now it's like I feel like they're lame, man. I don't laugh at any of them. But you might get a giggle out of me, but that's about it. That's the extent of what you're getting.
The only commercials I actually liked, and I don't even watch the Super Bowl for commercials, because if you're a football fan and say you're for the commercials, no, you can't say you're a football fan. No, anyone that says that I'm there for the commercials as a football and says they're a football fan,
normally 99% of the year, dude, I'm a football fan. I'm there for the commercials, but normally 99% of the year I ignore the commercials, and then this is supposed to be the one event. I get it.
There's only one that I was truly looking forward to, and I don't think I saw it. It was the DoorDash one with 50 Cent. And the reason I said that is because 50 Cent talked about how he was a troll and everything, and he did all that, and it was just little jabs at P. Diddy. That's all it was. We're like, he was bringing stuff out of the DoorDash bag, and he's like, "Oh, what's that?" And then you see a comb for Sean Diddy Combs, and then you see his vodka that he supports. He's like, "Yeah, it can deliver that too." And he's like, "DoorDash can deliver you with stuff that's up to like 4 months, and that's like the time that that's supposedly supposed to be in jail. So like, and I saw that on Twitter before the Super Bowl, and I'm
Oh
like, and
man.
it was not AI because that just was not
Oh.
an AI commercial. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, dude, if this ends up on the Super Bowl, I'm gonna love this. And it never showed up. I thought the
Mm.
Mick Ultra one was cool because there was a little ties to the Miracle on Ice. But outside of
Oh
that,
yeah.
that
Yeah.
was like all the because I was waiting for the Mick Ultra one because I saw it on Twitter and I saw that
Mm-hmm.
one. I was like, ah, okay, I saw that one, and then I was just waiting on the DoorDash one. Never saw it, and I was kind of just I don't know. I was just on my phone during the commercials. I thought the whole Super Bowl was trash. That's why
But
America.
that's
That's why America. When the World Cup comes to your backyard this summer, that is why the World Cup is superior than the Super Bowl. You'll get 1 billion people to watch it. That's why you should put your commercials on the World Cup final instead of the Super Bowl. But yeah, there'll be more eyeballs heading towards that. Just to let you know. Oh, also, I know we're gonna talk to it later, but this is just a little tease for it. Also, when people watch the World Cup final, they're there just for the product on the field, not the off the fields halftime shows, not the commercials, not what celebrity is there? Kim Kardashian's at the game? No way. No, they're not there for that. They're for the product on the field. Just putting it out there for you, America.
and much like the majority of NFL fans outside of 2 different cities in the United States, you won't get to see your favorite team in the final anyways. So you
Yeah.
just get to sit back and enjoy some good football, soccer here. But you get my point. Good
Yeah,
football slash soccer.
as long as England's not in the final, that's all that matters to me.
Oh well, that's the
England or
other side of
Mexico.
it too.
As long
I mean,
as
like
I mean, for being honest, no CONCACAF team's even going to get to the semifinals. So,
no,
but
no, absolutely
as
not.
long as England, Russia's not allowed in it, so I can't say them. England or Mexico doesn't win it, I could care less who ultimately wins it.
Yeah. Oh, and this is why that's the part about, and we'll get into Super Bowl talk. I know I got to transition into what the youth national team just did for the U17s and our CONCACAF conversation, but that's the other component of this. Like the star power on the field and the storyline on the field was just in a lot of ways so irrelevant because it was like the Patriots who really in a lot of I think just kind of stumbled their way into the Super Bowl. And then
Yeah.
obviously the Seahawks who like made their money because of what their defense can do. All respect in the world to Andy Dalton. I think Kenneth Walker is one of the more dynamic running backs I've ever seen. He's a freaking bowling ball.
Andy
But
Dalton?
or not sorry, I said Kenneth Walker. I said Andy Dalton.
You said no disrespect to Andy Dalton, but Kenneth Walker is a really good running back.
Oh, whoops. Okay. No, I said the defense is the reason why they won. No disrespect to Andy Dalton. That's how I wrapped up that thought. And then I went on to
Where,
like
where
as
did
in like
where did Andy Dalton come in all of this? He wasn't on any of the teams. You mean Sam Darnold?
Sam Darnold, Jesus Christ. I'm getting my freaking
Your ginger QBs mixed up?
2 different gingers.
Brother. Do you need a
but
buffer day
yeah,
today?
so-
That's why I put it at the bottom, buffer day Monday, because as I was driving in
yeah,
today,
of course.
there ain't
Super
nobody
Bowl
on the road.
Sunday.
There was
I was
like
actually at
nobody.
No, I was actually going to start off the show by saying I hope everyone is enjoying their hangover. I didn't drink it all yesterday, believe it or not. I just ate chicken and watched the game, but no, it was I thought it was just the on the field product. There just wasn't enough. There wasn't enough there for people to really invest. So everyone was just cared about halftime shows and everything else going on throughout the course of that game. But let's dive into our conversation here on the U.S. Youth National Team. Ryan, yeah, they poured it on yesterday.
Well, they poured it on all weekend. They won 18-0 between 2 games in their CONCACAF qualifiers. One to the St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's a real blue blood in the soccer world.
Yeah, well,
And then St. Kitts and Nevis. That's another blue blood that they played. But 18-0 between 2 games. I just had to put that out there because I think that's just crazy that you have a goal difference of 18 goals in 2 games, regardless of who you play. But also putting it out there that Malik Jakupovic scored 5 goals and had 1 assist against St. Kitts. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, no American has ever done that I know of. But is this really anything to write home about? Obviously, no, because it's the U17 CONCACAF Gold Cup qualifiers or whatever it is. And these 2 teams, this is not a measuring stick. This doesn't move the needle for anything. Now, if they did this against a France or a Spain, sure, we could start talking about that. But no, I just think it's good to give them a little bit of a spotlight, because I know most people won't. But to just give these U.S. youth teams, and a lot of these U.S. youth teams, if we're being completely honest, have some really good prospects in it. It's got to be one of the deepest teams that has ever happened for the U.S. Maybe I'm wrong, from like the early 2000s and late 90s,
Yeah.
maybe. But looking at these U.S. youth teams, in recent times they've been qualifying for the Olympics, making some deeper runs in terms of the World Cups. But no, there's some really good youth prospects, and I will say this: we'll probably touch on them maybe a little bit later in the week. But Matthias Elber was on the first team with Dortmund this week. Did not play, but was on the bench. But if this guy plays one single minute at all this year, he will have made his debut for Dortmund quicker than Christian Pulisic did with Borussia Dortmund. So that is just something to keep an eye out for. But no, there's a lot of U.S. youth prospects that are really starting to come into their own and start funneling their ways into these top European leagues.
And I think to our point that we made earlier in our revamp here on the Inside the Game, we talked about that next generation of U.S. players that are coming up. Albert certainly a part of that. That really might flip the switch for U.S. soccer. Is it something to get completely hyped about that they scored as many goals as they did in those games? No, because again, the sides that they're playing are not, household names in the game. It's still cool to see. It's cool to see a lopsided number for a U.S. team. But I think the bigger sign, to your point, Ryan, is the qualifying for the Olympics, is competing against the top end sides like, the Germanys of the world that we've seen, and the Italys that they've beaten and that they've competed with. And Albert's certainly another name on that list, and to be at that highest level is certainly something really impressive for him. But I think the point that we always circle back to, and I think we could loop this into the larger conversation, is that the U.S. really, I've talked about how CONCACAF is designed to see Americans succeed. And that continues to be the case. I mean, the entire point of CONCACAF, the way that it was built, the way that it was structured, and specifically some of their most recent decisions, is designed around the U.S. succeeding within it. And so I think we're kind of getting to that point in our development right now where we're winning a lot inside of CONCACAF, whether that be our senior team, especially our youth team can certainly win inside of CONCACAF. But how does that impact us when we meet up for some of these bigger world meetings with the bigger sides? Our youth teams have shown that they can compete in those games. Now we just need the senior team to catch up. And really, like we said, this lead up to the World Cup is going to show us a lot, because we're finally going to get to see the senior team play those heavy hitting sides. We see the youth national teams match up against them. They've obviously been competitive. They've done well. I hate Morocco. Again, like I said, I never want to see another U.S. soccer team play Morocco ever again for the rest of my life, because they just find a way to beat us. They have a formula for it. But outside of that, that's really going to give us a better look at the senior squad. But no, this younger group of U.S. prospects is certainly something to keep an eye on. They're just they're a fun group, and I know we've talked about a few of them.
No, they're a very, very fun group, and I think it's important that these groups come together. Look, everyone on these U.S. U17, U21, U23 teams, majority of them will not play with each other on the senior team. That's just the reality of it, and that's just the truth. But at the same time, is you are getting these guys a little bit cohesiveness with each other as a team, and eventually some of those players will eventually trickle into the senior team. We've seen that time and time again, but a majority won't play with each other, and a couple will flame out and eventually we'll never see again. But a couple of these players will ultimately kind of get that, it's kind of the word I'm looking for, the honor, and like they'll start to care about playing for the crest, playing for the U.S. men's national team, and I think that's where it all starts, is representing your national team on a youth level. We see it all the time with hockey, and we see it all at the World Juniors.
Yeah.
We see it all over the place in terms of a whole bunch of different sports. The only sport you don't see that in is football, because, well, no one else plays football in the world besides us, really. But no, that's
Japan.
Yeah, Japan. They're a really good football nation, that's for sure. But
the
no,
comparison I'll make, it's a much smaller sample size, but it almost kind of in a way reminds me a little bit of something like hockey, Ryan, because we can beat Canada somewhat consistently at the younger youth levels. But when you get to the senior levels, Sweden is filled with guys that will probably make long NHL careers, if not make the Hall of Fame. Canada is just every line is just Hall of Famers. Speaking of, I mean, obviously we got the Winter Olympics, U.S. men's national team. They got their games coming up here. That tournament set to begin, but just lines of Hall of Famers. Even Russia, if they were allowed to compete, I saw a projection of what
US beat Canada last year.
their roster would be. I get it, but not in the final. But either way, you know, they routinely find a way to choke in those big games. They haven't won a gold medal since that 1980 game against Finland after the Miracle on Ice. That's the last time they've done it. So at the youth levels, yeah, we're competing with everybody. But you get to that big game with the senior team, you just can't get it done. So again, a much smaller sample size. Obviously, soccer and hockey are two different worlds, and I'm not directly comparing the two, but that's what I mean. You know, we're seeing our youth sides go out and compete with the Germanys and the Italys, but what is our senior team needs to catch up in that regard.
I mean, I will say this though. I mean, there's fewer nations in terms of hockey. We're basically like the England of soccer. You know, we just kind of are there, and we just can't get it done. I mean, we've been in the silver medal match, and also we haven't had the NHL players in a while, in a handful of years. So I mean, that's a little bit different of having. Who are we sending over there? Just college kids, amateurs?
Yeah, some of the best amateurs in that we had. Which I mean, so that's what it used to be before 1980. 1980 was kind of the year that changed that. They started allowing NHL players to go. USSR was a little bit different. But anyways, go ahead.
But what were we doing before that? Weren't we just kind of like, I feel like this is the first time in a while we've had, you know, some of
I think 2014, 2010 was the last time NHL players went. I don't know if it was I don't know. Something to do with the NHL. Maybe some sort of
go over
agreement. Yeah, but it's weird how some years they do and some years they don't. Like it doesn't. But it also depends, I think, more on the country too, because I think there were certain countries that did send NHL players or professionals. Yeah, to be completely honest with you, I'm not sure. I'm just happy that they're back in it because it makes every game that much more entertaining. But yeah, I mean, so before we wrap up this conversation, you know, you were talking about the other day, and I saw you had made a video on it. And you make so many videos. Your efficiency with churning out the videos is impressive, man. It's like a conveyor belt. So sometimes I'll miss one or two of them. But you were talking about the other day about the guaranteed bids, 6 guaranteed bids in CONCACAF, how the U.S. should never miss a World Cup moving forward. Yeah, I mean, I had made reference to how it's kind of crafted around American success, but I feel like that kind of takes that conversation to a new level when you talk about 6 guaranteed spots.
Yeah, there's, in terms of making it success for the U.S., in terms of CONCACAF doing that, the success is set up for 2 nations, USA and Mexico. That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
Canada.
a Panama once every decade or so. Maybe a Jamaica sneaks in there. Maybe a Canada sneaks in there, but it's really just set up for the U.S. and Mexico. That's all it is. And these 6 automatic bids will, again, this is what happens when you expand the field of the World Cup. You're going to get worse teams in the tournament, and we're not going to have as many games. So for the people that are going to start complaining, well, we haven't had these many great games and everything. Well, when you expand the field, this is what happens. Shout out the college football playoff and shout out the NFL playoffs. That's just the way it is. And basically, we got to be the top 6 team in CONCACAF. So you're telling me we have to be better than either one of Mexico, Canada, Panama, Jamaica, Honduras, and I can't even think of another team that's like kind of Costa Rica. I mean, Costa Rica used to be good, but not really good anymore. But that's who we got to be better than. If they fail to make a World Cup in terms of that, like in the foreseeable future, just don't play the game of soccer. If we fail to make a World Cup in the next like 30 years, just don't play the game of soccer. Let's just quit.
Yeah.
Let's just cut our losses. No more Inside the Game podcast. Just cut it. Just stop playing the game of soccer. Like if we fail to make a World Cup in the next 30 years, just don't play the game of soccer. Like it makes sense if we were competing in Europe or South America. Yeah, and we failed to make a World Cup. Like, sure, that's fine because there's so many better nations than us. And that's why also when I hear like, oh, the U.S. is in the top 15 in the world rankings, well, look who we've played. Like, look, it's like the
Yeah,
Patriots in the Super Bowl. Look who you played to get there. Like,
yeah,
that's not really impressive until you start beating these nations on a consistent basis. Yeah, then I can start taking some effect into that. But no, if we should make the World Cup for the foreseeable future, for like the rest of the time, we should be making the World Cup, unless some crazy thing happens with our U.S. men's national team. But it's like, if you fail to make the World Cup, all we have to be is a top 6 CONCACAF team. I mean, bro, just stop playing. Just stop. Like, it's a joke. If you fail to make it, it's a joke. And after
yeah,
2018, which I will always say, failing to make 2018, it's a blessing in disguise because all of a sudden we had to realize that our way isn't working and we might actually have to rely on other ways of thinking to get this thing done. And all of a sudden, what'd you see after 2018? What'd you see? All these Americans start going overseas and playing. Pulisic, McKennie, Adams,
hmm,
Aronson, Matt Turner, technically, and Chris Richards. And all of a sudden, we have all these youth prospects that are being bought by MLS teams or bought by European teams from the MLS going over there. Yeah, that's massive. But if we
yeah,
fail to make the World Cup in this format, jeez, just wrap it. We're
yeah.
cooked.
No, and I don't think we will, and I think it's because of the willingness to embrace the European game and to continue to send players overseas, and allow them to develop in those schools of thought. I don't pay that much attention to Mexican football, or soccer, mostly because the only time I really care about Mexico is when they play the United States. Like, that's really the only time that I'm kind of locked into what's going on with
Well,
their
most of their
national team
European
and how they've
prospects
looked.
flop, so.
Well, exactly that, but that's so they're kind of hindering their growth in a lot of ways, and even some of their other top end players they won't let leave Liga MX. I mean, they're very guarded in who they have, and I think there's this fierce competition as to who can be the next one to discover the next great talent. They have issues when it comes to transparency and fluency and sending those players overseas and allowing them to develop because they want to keep them in Mexico. And the hard part is when you do that, you hinder their growth. I mean, what have we talked about? Even a player like Diego Luna, like, yeah, I mean, I love that the kid's in the MLS. I love that he's playing here in the United States, but he needs to go to Europe. And a lot of these bubble players, if you get a chance to go to Europe and play significant minutes and learn from that school of thought and be around those players and be in that environment, you take that opportunity. So I understand that there's this overwhelming sense of pride for Americans in general that we want to do things our way. We want to do things our way. We want our guys. We want to recruit. We want to build off of what we have here. Do it our way. There is no our way. Like, there
Besides
is no
soccer,
our
there
way.
isn't.
No, there isn't. So they go over there and they learn and they bring back what they learn to our shores. We get coaches from over there. We get other influential faces and people that have worked in those environments that lead leagues like the USL. Like, there is none. I realize we've played that game in the United States for a long time. Again, it's what football was born from, a mix of soccer and rugby and kind of everything mixed in one eventually is what American football came from. But there is no our way. And so I think the US, more than a lot of places, and maybe because they have the means to do so, has embraced that more than, more than I would say places like Mexico. I don't know about Canada. Frankly, I don't really pay attention to it. They all play hockey up there anyways, as we just talked about.
And
But
basketball now, even
and
though
and, and,
even
and
though outside of
basketball, that's true.
Shea, majority suck.
They're breaking in. I would say I don't know if they're top 5 in the world.
Hey, when
They
you
might
have
be
a
top
men's
5 in the
national
world.
team
But
for a basketball team with Trey Lyles on it, yeah, you suck.
RJ Barrett, the chosen one. But yeah, I don't know. I think
don't
there's
mind
been a
RJ.
willingness from US soccer to kind of embrace the European model, to send our kids over there younger, to our prospects over there younger, to embrace the coaching style. I mean, how many coaches have we talked to on the show that have an accent? They're not from here. They were born somewhere else. They came up at a different school of thought and then they moved to the United States and they saw what it was a couple of decades ago, and then now what it is now, which is something completely different. But a lot of that formed and crafted by the European game. So again, as much as the sense of pride that I have as an American wants to be like, no, they had no impact. We're doing it our way, and we're gonna win it our way. There is no our way. There is no our way. And so we have to be willing and open to accept different schools of thought. Now, can you create a culture? Absolutely, you can create a culture. But culture and style are two different things. You can have your own style. You can have a mix of styles. But culture is a completely separate conversation. That more comes down to, different things within the clubhouse and different things within U.S. soccer in general, which, speaking of the younger kids, I feel like they have that. I feel like they kind of have that mentality, that kind of, F you, grind it out, get in your chest, get up the field. Like that's what I like out of the kids. So culture and style are two different things, but the style part has been in large part formed by what we've seen from the international influence, not necessarily what we have or what we had already on our shores, So anyways,
I would
just
agree.
the way I see things.
And speaking of European soccer, Nate, why don't you tell us about Bayern Munich soccer camps?
We're a little bit over, aren't we?
On our
first FC Bayern soccer camps are a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, fostering football excellence across North America. Open to boys and girls of all skill levels, FC Bayern camps deliver elite training inspired by FC Bayern Munich's world-class philosophy. Select your city, start a promising soccer path, and right now save $30 on registration by using promo code BayernNSN30. Again, that's BayernNSN30, or scan the QR code on your screen. Learn more at fcbayernyouth.com. Back live on the National Soccer Network, Inside the Game, episode 225, with Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky. Get into our second topic here in hour number one, the Super Bowl, the biggest sporting event in American sports, without a doubt. It really far and away. The NFL itself kind of dominates the sports scene in the U.S. If you ever watch American sports television, I mean, it's always NFL something, even in the offseason. Right now, they're already talking about next year. And obviously, I told you, I'm a loyal listener to The Herd, Colin Cowherd, and his show. It's always NFL talk, always 24/7.
NFL 2026.
Yeah, exactly. Right now. So it is the biggest event in American sports. However, it is not the biggest sporting event in the world. That, as always, belongs to the FIFA World Cup. Ryan, you made a video on this yesterday. Go ahead and break down what you told the people on that one.
Well, yeah, it's very simple. One final gets over 1 billion views, and the other one gets just over 100 million views. And one sporting event, you watch it for the product on the field. Another sporting event, you watch for the halftime performance and the commercials and all the off-the-field stuff. I would bet you probably 25% of all the people are there just to simply watch the commercials and the halftime performance. But when you're watching the World Cup final, you're there for simply the product on the field. And let me tell you something, America. This is going to be in your backyard this summer. Over 1 billion people are going to watch a game at MetLife Stadium. I know. Not many people want to watch football games at MetLife Stadium because, man, do those football teams suck. But we're going to have a very good one. And if this World Cup final is anything like the 2022 World Cup final, I mean, boy, this is going to be something else. And I only say that, and everyone can argue, well, like everyone's going to be like, well, it's the world's game. Not everyone plays American football. Not everyone does this, and this. Yeah, I understand that. But I'm just telling from a simple viewing numbers. And a lot of Americans think that the Super Bowl is the best thing that there is on planet Earth. And that's the best viewing experience that you can have in terms of sporting events. Maybe. But what I'm telling you about is the World Cup. And yesterday, actually, even in the game of soccer, the Man City Liverpool game, I think got 700 million views worldwide for a single English Premier League game. Just putting it out there. But what I'm telling you is, America, is our sport, American football, is not king. I know that's hard for a lot of people to say. I know that's hard for a lot of people to digest because what do you mean football's not king? Well, it's king in America, but I'm talking about the whole world. Soccer's king. And over 1 billion people watch a final. Just watch 90 minutes of a game, maybe 120, maybe hour 40 or 140 minutes because of a shootout if it gets there, like in 2022. But I'm just putting it out there that this is going to be in your backyard for a whole summer. And I know that we've already talked about there's no point of even watching baseball this year because the Dodgers are going to run away with it anyway. So instead of watching that product, let's watch outside of minor league baseball, Nate. I know a lot of people love minor league baseball, and we got to make sure Nate gets his views too. Got to make sure he gets his minor league baseball views because Nate does a really good job with the Whitecaps, and the Whitecaps won a championship.
Thanks,
but this is going to be in your backyard all summer long. And instead of watching baseball, maybe let's watch a game of soccer and how crazy that is. And ultimately grow the game of soccer in America and help the game of soccer grow here. By instead of watching baseball, which we already know who the champion's going to be. It's going to be the LA Dodgers. Right? I'm already telling you. But in soccer, we don't know who's going to be the final this year. We don't know who's going to be the champion this year. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, well, you make a lot of good points there, Rye. I like your sales pitch. We always talk about trying to grow the game of soccer, and that was good. You wound your way to the end wonderfully. You're like, hey, instead of doing this or that, how about you just tune out and turn on a soccer game? You might discover that you love it. No, the World Cup is always a spectacle. Anybody that thinks that the Super Bowl is bigger than the World Cup has never left the comfort of 5 miles within range of their house before. They've never left the state. They have no idea that there's actually other things that exist in the world outside of what they consume, which is obviously football, beer, brats, burgers, and football. Like that's just the life. And when you grow up in it, you grow up in it. And so it is the biggest thing in the world to you. But anyone with half a brain, I think, would be willing to realize that the Super Bowl, which is, again, it is a domestic game, despite the fact that there are 62.5 million viewers outside of the U.S., pales in comparison to what we see in the World Cup, and not even just the World Cup. I mean, other international competitions. You talked about some of the other examples, or even league play in the Premier League. I mean, in high leverage games like Man City and Liverpool yesterday. So I think in my mind, if anything, this is just kind of a given what you're saying. You are correct. I think it's just a given to anyone who kind of realizes, the Super Bowl is restricted in that way. They might follow football everywhere else, but that doesn't really mean that they're really bought in quite to the same extent that they are with the actual football, the other football. See, I get mixed up with this sometimes, but either way, I think it would be more interesting to compare it to the likes of like the Olympics, like the Winter Olympics or the Summer Olympics, which, by the way, it still beats both of those competitions.
Oh, I got those numbers pulled up too.
Okay, so I mean, we can go through some of those. I think that would be the more interesting comparison in my mind, simply because I think, again, the Super Bowl in one way or another is restricted. But it is, if you're talking about from a viewership perspective, I think that the one thing that the World Cup has, and again, it has more to do with that the game itself, and this is what is so confusing, and it's why I don't think a lot of American viewers or American consumers of sports really grasp onto soccer. It's because the product is the game. The product is the product. It's what happens on the field. Like that is what everybody that whether you're supporting these countries or you're just a fan of the game itself, like that is the story. Everything else around it is really irrelevant. Like, yeah, they're going to have a halftime style performance. Now, I don't know how they're going to do it, maybe before or after the game. They're going to have musical performances and everything like that. But that's why they call it the beautiful game, because it's all about what happens on the field. You don't have nearly as many distractions in terms of everything else that's going on in and around it, which is, I think, what made the Super Bowl yesterday nauseating. For anybody who truly, genuinely just wanted to watch the game and just wanted to see a good matchup, we were surrounded by everything else going on because of it's the American audience. They need something extra. They need the extra appetizer. They need the cherry on top. They need something else to go with the game because the game itself simply isn't enough. So I would say if we want to make a comparison, my comparison would be this, Ryan. There are far more casuals watching the Super Bowl than there are watching the World Cup. So,
Probably.
But even then, still watch the World Cup, even if you're a casual, because you might discover that you like soccer a little bit more than you think. But anyways,
Yeah,
I know you got some numbers to get through.
When you're watching an American sporting event, the American sporting viewing experience is all for the extra stuff. You got Bluey at the game. You got 50-cent beer night, which I hope they bring back one
Do you
day.
like Bluey and Bingo?
I don't even know who that is. I've never watched it. I've never.
What?
No, I don't watch that stuff.
It's like the new SpongeBob, man. That's like they're next up.
Yeah,
Kids love it. Apparently,
can't say
dogs can see it.
I
too.
try to watch that, but no, you're there for all the other extra things that are around instead of actually like. I mean, it's smart from a fiscal standpoint if you're an owner that you're trying to get the most bang out of your buck there, and you have all these extra things. It's fine, but that's not what soccer experiences are. But anyway, this is the top 25 or top 15 viewed sporting events since 2022 because, of course, the Olympics are in there, and some of them happen every 4 years.
Yeah.
But the World Cup comes in at number one. That 5 billion people watch the tournament overall. 1.2 that we talked about watch the final. I mean, can't really have more than 5 billion people watch a final or watch a whole tournament.
Yeah.
Number two, this was surprising. Tour de France, 3.5 billion viewers. I didn't realize that was so popular. Number three, this makes sense. The Cricket World Cup, 2.6 billion viewers in 2025.
On the Tour de France part, by the way, back when Lance Armstrong was doing his thing, a lot
cheating?
of American viewers, well, definitely cheating, but a lot of we didn't know at the time. That's why we were all wearing those wristbands, the Livestrong wristbands, because still believe in the cause, and obviously he still very much went through what he did. But yeah, a little blood doping.
Four, the Women's World Cup, 2 billion viewers. Well, I didn't think that was so big. Which is actually tied for 5 and 6. The Summer Games and the Winter Games are all at 2 billion views. And then we get a massive drop off, but it's still a soccer event. Number 7, the Champions League final, 145 million viewers, which still beats the Super Bowl by 20 million views. At 8, Wimbledon at 9 with 69.3 million views. Number 10, the World Series, 51 million views. The Kentucky Derby at 11, 21. The Final Four at number 12 with 21 million. The Masters, I thought the Masters would be a little bit higher, 13th with 19.5 million. The NBA Finals, 19.3 million. And rugby with 17 million views. So
wow.
that's just all it is. And if we're looking at it, there's only 6 truly American sporting events out of all of this. Because everything else is international. Sure, the international part plays a factor in getting everything, but this also just means that America's not the best at everything when it comes to sports, especially when it comes to sporting events in our own country. It looks like a lot of people edge it out.
Yeah.
But No, I think that's just that's why America, you should tune into the World Cup this year.
We can summarize it this way: soccer is the most popular sport in the world. I mean, hands down. So that's always the fun. That's the ultimate trump card. I feel like, if anybody ever gets into you a little bit about, soccer this or soccer that, it's like, hey, it's the most popular sport in the world. It's the
Yep.
world's game.
That's what I
And
use
that's
all the
why,
time in middle school
yeah,
and high school because everyone told me soccer was a
yep,
dumb sport and used other words to describe soccer that I can't say. But
yeah,
yeah, no, that's
which
why
is,
people. It's the
yeah,
world's game. And it's funny that like in terms of always the hype up videos, they're always like doesn't matter. Which the 2010 ESPN hype up video for the World Cup was like cinema. Like it's like doesn't matter what your political beliefs are or where you're standing in the world or what war tensions are going on with each country, but everyone comes in and gathers around for 1 month every 4 years to watch the World Cup regardless of anything. And everyone kind of becomes one outside of kind of playing each other. Obviously you want to win the whole thing, but
yeah,
outside of that everyone kind of comes together for 1 whole month to just watch the game of soccer and just try to hopefully win it all. But everyone's there to just simply watch the game of soccer, and obviously we're
yeah,
gonna have some cool chants going on. I know South America and Africa have got some really good fans in terms of all the dancing and all the singing and all the extracurriculars that they do. Like if you're watching soccer, you will see that like the fans become like that extra sidebar that you see in the Super Bowl because of all the chants that they're doing. Shout out England when they play
yeah,
Germany.
yeah.
Honestly, America, we have so many chants we could do in terms of like when we play like a Germany or we play in England, but we just don't do it. Like I'm just saying, we carried in the wars. We carried. But I'm just saying we could absolutely
Yeah.
be coming up with some chants. But no, the extracurriculars become the fans because sometimes they bring flares into the stadiums. You watch AFCON, we got fans storming the field because they're pissed about a call. We got towels being snatched from people. We got people that just stand there as a statue for a whole game, just like this. Just stands there, doesn't move, doesn't make an emotion, just stands there. We got dancing. We got people shirtless at the time. We got a whole bunch of people drunk. That's the
Vuvuzelas.
sidebar. What? What'd you say?
Vuvuzelas,
Yeah, yeah,
which
that
are
was that was
annoying. I hate
annoying.
those things.
That
Yeah.
was that was cool for a little bit, but man, I'm glad they never brought that back. That was if I was a player, the vuvuzelas would piss me off. It's like
Oh, I'm sure.
it's
Yeah.
it's not like that much of an advantage because like everyone has to experience it and like every fan is doing it. But like
Yeah.
if I'm just trying to like bark out instructions or try to talk to my teammate, like and all I hear is like for 90 minutes, like
I'm picturing a world in which I'm like sitting in front of these bozos too. Like I got tickets to the game and I'm like right in front of them, just like yeah, it would drive you insane after a while. But no, it literally soccer. I'm pretty sure has caused like wars before, like political conflicts between places because of the game. Like it is, and it's one of my favorite comedic bits as it pertains to sports has to deal with, and I know we got to get into our final segment here. I want to give you a chance to talk about Liverpool and Man City, but it has to do with rivalries, right? In the United States, Michigan and Ohio State, obviously the two states just don't like each other. Like if you were to ask people from Michigan what's your least
shout out
favorite state,
basketball yesterday.
yeah, we can certainly talk about that. Yeah,
Colin White, how many points did you
exactly.
score, buddy? As many as I did.
I think Michigan's lost to Sparty in hockey is like the first time they've lost to either of those two since the Ohio State Michigan football game. But either way, in talking about that, he's like Michigan and Ohio State don't like each other. Yeah, they had a border dispute. One person got hurt. There was a little spying and a little espionage, but that's what it all stemmed from, was like that border war, and like they got Toledo, we got the UP, blah 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 blah, whatever. But he's
Hey,
like
we won
over in
that.
France, but he's like in Europe, he's like he's like there was a bloody war between the two countries. Thousands of people died. There were planes flying overhead. There was an entire generation of young men wiped out. And they also don't like playing each other in soccer either. that's what their rivalry is based off of. There was a world war and they all killed each other, and now they settle their differences on the soccer pitch as opposed to like running bombers over each other's cities. It's like he's got a point. He makes a good point. It's a little morbid, but yeah, their rivalries mean just a little bit more over there.
If you get the
little bit
video
more
clip,
hatred.
send it to me and I'll play it. But if you find that,
That's it.
send that to me and I'll
Yeah,
play it on the show.
he
I'm sure
obviously
everyone will get
explained
a
it a little
comedic
bit
relief out of it.
better out of that one. But let's tell you about Barca Academy. They're a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network and the official academy of FC Barcelona in the U.S., designed for boys and girls ages 6 to 18. Barca Academy camps follow and replicate the FC Barcelona game model. Same philosophy used by Barca's professional coaching staff. Right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code FCB30. Again, that's promo code FCB30, or scan the QR code on your screen. Find a camp near you at fcbarcelona.us/camps.
In Barca camp, I sing my song Grown on and off of the field. Don't miss the time to register.
Sign up now for Barca Camp.
What's up? Welcome back in hour one of Inside the Game, episode 225. Getting into our final topic here in hour one. Big matchup yesterday, Liverpool and Man City. Ryan, I know that you made a video on that one too shortly afterwards, but Erling Haaland kept Man City alive in the Premier League title race on that Sunday night game with a penalty winner to defeat Liverpool 2-1 at Anfield. It was filled with a lot of different things. Obviously, the comeback was great. I felt like that PK for Liverpool was just wasted. This is one of the sickest goals I've seen all year, and it was late in that game. They should have been able to close it out, man. They should have been able to close it out because the sting of that PK doesn't really land if you don't win that game. But Haaland just continues to show he's one of the best. He's a straight up superstar, and helped keep them in the title race with that match. But what were your biggest takeaways from watching those two?
That the Man City agenda is live and well. I mean, that PK, I have seen that PK not given many, many times based on other games. But when it comes to Man City, they always get the benefit of the doubt, which is always weird. But no, if I'm watching it, and Man City, they're also just a team of champions. It's another sign of champions for them. They've shown that they've won it time and time again. I mean, if they lose that game or drop points, you're looking at an 8. If they tie, it's an 8-point deficit for them. If they lose, it's a 9-point. But it's 6 points right now, and Arsenal and City still have to play each other with 13 games to go. But it's just another sign of them. They didn't play well. They went to Anfield, and there's really got to be some questions about Arne Slot. 550 million plus and can't get it done. Not even in the top 4. But no, he's gotta get things done. And for Man City, like, I hate it that they continue to find ways to win. They're still in the title race and they haven't played well, like up to the City standard, I should say, for this last couple of months and quite frankly the whole season. Like the Man City standard is, just win out of 20 games, your first 19 games, you win like 17 of them. That's kind of just the standard, and they have struggled in terms of that aspect in trying to get to that standard. And they're just a very good team. They're a very deep team. Do I think that PK was a PK? Yeah, but if that PK is given, then there should be a lot of other PKs given, especially when it comes to Arsenal versus Man City. Weird how that works. PGMOL. That's just weird how that works. But if I'm watching it, that free kick, that knuckle from Szoboszlai, unbelievable goal. But that just kind of sums up Liverpool's season. It's that they score a crazy goal like that, and it comes from a free kick because they can't score really in the run of play sometimes, and then they choke it away at the end because their defense, their back line struggles at times. And you could arguably say if Mark Gahey's red card should have been a red card, and I think it should have been because it's a last man back and you pull Salah down just outside the box. That should have been a red card. But it's just weird that sometimes everyone kind of blames the refs for lots of calls and everything. But if we're being honest, they're there to make the story and the overall experience a little bit better. Like, I remember watching the Michigan-Nebraska game at Chrysler, and there was like 10 missed calls against Nebraska. But I'm sitting there, and I think back to myself, I'm like, well, Nebraska has a short bench. If you call those fouls on the bigs, then it just becomes a blowout. But then you made it a 2-point game in the end, and it's a great finish. But if we don't call these for Man City, then the title race, Arsenal kind of just runs away with it. But now it's a 6-point difference. They still play each other. So the finish has got to be pretty epic. So, no, I think refs are kind of doing their thing.
So
but my takeaway would be
you think these refs are directed to create parity?
Have you heard the VAR conversations? There's that penalty I have seen for Arsenal not given twice this year because the goalie has a right to the ball. Then if that's the case and the same officiating crew that has said that, the same VAR ref, the same ref has said that, then that's not a PK. But for Man City, who all of a sudden were sitting there like, wow. So if they tie this game, it's an 8-point difference. But if they win, it's a 6-point difference. But, yeah, let's give it because the goalie doesn't have the right to the ball. It's weird. It's just weird how that works because that same ref said the goalie has a right to the ball months ago. But all of a sudden in this game, he's like, well, that's a PK because he completely wipes it out. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. If that's the case, then that's not a PK. If that one months ago was not a PK and the one a couple of years ago is not a PK, the same situation, then that's not a PK yesterday. Obviously, Allison misjudges it. Obviously, he wipes out Nunez, or I believe that's who he wiped out there. But you can't call that a PK if the one back in October is not a PK and the one a couple of years ago isn't a PK. Like, it doesn't make sense. And obviously, Arsenal's not the only example of this. There's much other examples in other teams that have this because this happens on a weekly basis. But in that game, Man City was given the benefit of the doubt a handful of times. Shout out Mark Gahey, and now shout out the PK.
Yeah, the VAR has been fascinating ever since bringing it on.
Everyone just wants consistency.
The
That's
technology.
all everyone wants.
Yeah.
Everyone just wants is
for
consistency,
you,
and they're not consistent.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I mean, does any of that come down to the human factor, though, in your mind? Interpretation of what's going on? Because that could also play a role. But I just think it's interesting the angle that you're taking, that this is something that is almost kind of coming from the top in the Premier League.
Oh, if you're in charge of a sports league, you're a commissioner. Like everyone says that the NFL is scripted and all this and all that.
Yeah.
Would you just want a team to just run away eventually with the league title, whatever league it is, whether that's soccer, basketball, football? No, you don't. You want it to come down to the end every single time. That's why people love Survival Sunday or Championship Sunday so much in the Premier League, because many things can happen, and it comes down to the final game, the final weekend. And we saw that, let's see, Arsenal had it a couple years with City. City won it. Then you had Liverpool and City handful of times, and ultimately the most overrated Premier League moment of all time, the Aguero goal. That's what happened. And why do I say that's overrated? Because QPR sold the damn game. That's why it's overrated. QPR sold it. They just gave up when they realized that they were then they realized they were safe. They just gave the game away. So you can't say that's a great moment. But yeah, I mean, everything. Like, I remember hearing Peter Drury, the greatest soccer commentator of all time. He talked about, he was asked, like, do you root for certain teams? Like, was there ever a team that, like, as a kid that you always rooted for? And he's like, I root for the story. I root for the storylines. And he's like, ultimately, if I have a good story, then that's all I care about, because that's what people are tuning into. Because you can't have a league where Arsenal runs away with the league by 20 points. No one's going to watch that. Like, last year was so boring because Liverpool ran away with it. Like, in the last month, no one was truly watching it for anything unless your team was fighting a relegation battle. But, my viewing experience at that time was like, I could care less because there's no point in playing for anything. We already had the top 4. We can't win the title.
Yeah.
So there's no point in me watching that. I'd much rather spend my Saturday and Sunday mornings, afternoons doing something way better than that. Than just watching a Premier League game that doesn't mean anything. Like, I remember I was, like, the Liverpool-Arsenal game last year at Anfield at the end. Like, my cousin and I are, big fans of each. And, like, I'm supposed to be hyped for that game. Him and I are supposed to be hyped for it. But we looked at each other and we're like, dude, this game is stupid. Like, there's no point of playing it. And ultimately, it was a good game in the end. Just kind of watching back on some highlights. But, no, it doesn't matter. So what's going to happen is, Man City doesn't get that penalty. They most likely tie. You're looking at an 8-point gap between the top, the number 1 and number 2. And Aston Villa has just fallen off anyway. I think they're down like 10 points now from the top. But a couple weeks ago, they were within a game of being top. So, yeah, you have to make a good story. So what do? You put the team that hasn't won a title in 20-plus years, number 1, who has a history of bottling it, and you put the team that wins it, I think 7 out of the last 8 years. You keep them in it. You're going to keep that up, and you're going to create that story. You're going to constantly see people that don't even root for the teams are going to
with arguably your biggest star too, in Erling Haaland, and so you put him in the game too. So, and man, he was a surprise. He was pretty much out of the picture until the 84th minute, and then all of a sudden knows how to take over a game late. Like, it's crazy to see that even on a bad day, he can still take over when he needs to. I know, obviously, you think that it wouldn't shock me at all if they would want to see him in a position like that and still in a title race. So, yeah, but just a wild finish. I think it's natural to speculate, though. I mean, if it happens elsewhere, it can happen here, and that's the thing. That, like,
example of this happens all the time. That with City for whatever reason. That's same with Real Madrid and Barcelona over the years. There's so many questionable calls. Like, there was, what was it? I think it was a Champions League semifinal back in like the early 2010s, and you had prime Barca against Chelsea, and like Chelsea was kind of up and coming in terms of the Champions League, and there were 3 stonewall PKs for Chelsea that weren't awarded, and they ultimately lost it. And you had Didier Drogba running to the camera after the game saying, "It's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged." And then, like, there's and it happens all the time. The best teams get the benefit of the doubt. Like, look at Mahomes for all those years. Look at Tom Brady for all those years. Like, you telling me that there's a questionable call in the World Series or the playoffs that might, go against the Dodgers? You're telling me they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt? No, they're 100% going to get the benefit of the doubt. Even if for like a split second in the Game 7 of the World Series where I forgot who it was, the Blue Jays runner that, was out at home plate to throw it at the plate. If that's even if there's like a split second where the Blue Jays player might have had the advantage, that the benefit is still going to the Dodgers because it's the Dodgers. They want them to win. It makes for the stories, and it makes for the most money.
Big brands get their way.
That's why they always say everything's scripted. Well, I don't necessarily believe that, but you got to think certain things have to go certain teams' ways, because if you look at it, like, what brings in the most money? Like, do you have to have a dynasty in a dynasty team in the Super Bowl? Kind of, because that's what people tune into. They either want to see A, greatness, or they want to see the dynasty fall. That's basically what it boils down to.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's get into that a little bit on the other side. Coming up, our all sports portion of Inside the Game. We have hit the 10 o'clock hour. Before we get there, though, Manchester City Soccer Camps are a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, bringing world-class training inspired by Man City's global football philosophy to players across the United States. Open to boys and girls of all skill levels, these camps focus on technical development, decision-making, and playing the game the City way. Right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code MCNSN30. Again, that's MCNSN30. Or you can scan the QR code on your screen. Find a camp near you, usacamps.mancity.com. Getting into hour two here on Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Make sure you give us a follow wherever you find us on social media, Sports Nation TV. We'll be posting all of these clips there. If you watched our first hour and you enjoyed that, the National Soccer Network, wherever you find your social media. Ryan and I kind of tag teaming both of those two, but we're going to keep bringing you those social clips, and obviously big build up for us as we get closer to the World Cup. Big time for us here on the National Soccer Network, but already a lot of drama and a lot of stuff to get to on the all sports side. Obviously, we talked about the Super Bowl yesterday. That's going to be a main theme throughout the course of this. However, now that football is over, Ryan, you posed the question in our prep sheet today. What happens now? Well, that's a good question. What do you think happens now?
College basketball season. That's
yeah.
what I'm hyped for. So I posted a video this weekend. I mean, college basketball. I mean, I didn't get to really watch any of it live because I was at a hockey game / a bar, so I was kind of just like, kind of glancing at it. But I saw the endings, and North Carolina Duke never disappoints, even when one team is trash. Like, no, I mean, Carolina was top 15 this year. I think they were. Anyway. But even when Carolina is trash and they're like not going to make the tournament, they still compete with Duke. Like it's awesome, even when Duke's like number one. But no, this year was great. The buzzer beater by Seth Trimble to get it done.
Oh my goodness!
Hits it, and then the crowd rushes the court, and then we have you got to go back out. There's 0.4 seconds left because you can get a shot off in 0.4 of a second. You can.
I think you can
catch and release. Then he doesn't even catch the ball, and then we got Then they stormed the court again, and then John Shire's crying about how they punched his staff. Like, bro, like, what do you played in this game? How many times you've coached in this game? How many times as a head coach or an assistant coach? This is expected. Oh God!
You still shouldn't be punching staff, but I mean, I get it.
I've never seen a video where the staff gets punched.
It's true. There should be a video out there, especially nowadays. Like, no one's gonna miss that. There's gotta be something. But
I remember. Do you remember a couple years ago? I forget who Duke lost to, and John Shire is the biggest crybaby when it comes to court storming. A couple years ago, Duke lost, and they lost on the road. and Duke was top 10 or something, and they lost to an unranked team, and Filipowski gets like the fan didn't intentionally try to
I
trip
remember that.
Filipowski, but
Yeah.
Filipowski gets touched, and it's like he got shot, and the world just stopped. And Shire runs over and starts yelling at everyone, get off the floor quicker, Filipowski. Like, just run off the court. Like,
Yeah.
if you're a top 5 team, a top 10 team, and you lose on the road to an unranked team, doesn't everyone kind of realize in their head, like, they're about to storm the court? I should maybe sprint off the court, maybe get to the sideline quickest way to the tunnel. Maybe I should do that instead of just do this. Put my head down and just sit there and stand there. No, get off the court. Don't just stand there if I'm Filipowski and just, and then the fans are running and I leave a leg out like Jeremy Fears and it's, oh my gosh, I just got touched. John Shire's the biggest crybaby when it comes to court storming, dude. Like, have I seen a video of these fans getting punched? No. Haven't seen it. Filipowski gets touched, and it's like, oh my god. But anyway, Michigan State, Illinois was great. Got to overtime. MSU wins it, and then Tennessee, Kentucky was unbelievable too. Tennessee choked that one. Nate Ament, unbelievable in that game as well.
Yeah.
But no, that's what I'm looking forward to is college basketball, and especially with Michigan being really good. Whew, I'm hyped.
Yeah, and a lot of those matchups have really kind of found new life. I feel like Duke, North Carolina has found new life, with that being now a top 15 matchup and with obviously Duke going down. That was their first loss in conference play against that North Carolina team. So, yeah, man, I mean, that rivalry, and I was actually having a conversation with my dad. We went out after I had a couple of games on that Saturday. We ended up going out, just beat ups, just hang out and watch whatever. Didn't even realize that Duke, North Carolina was on. We actually went out because we knew that the stadium series between Michigan and Michigan State hockey was actually they were playing in Detroit, and obviously Sparty ended up winning that one, but duel in the D. But we were going to watch that, but we didn't even realize Duke, North Carolina was on, but they flipped it on, and so we watched that game, and I was talking to him, and, people are of different schools of thought of what they're, when it comes to the bucket list for sports, there's a few different things that I want, few different matchups that I want to see. Obviously, Michigan and Ohio State is on there. Army-Navy is squarely on there. But the other one of those has to be Duke, North Carolina basketball. It is just it's a different level of hate between those two. And when it comes to why it has everything to do with proximity and the Tobacco Road, but also just the history. And I saw a really fascinating post yesterday, and I think this would be a good topic to get into maybe on the show tomorrow or whatever it is. But is Duke, North Carolina / Michigan, Ohio State, are those the two best rivalries in their respective sports?
No,
I think they are.
Based off of Jay Williams on College Game Day, no. Him chanting for a 3-time player, he played for 3 years at Duke, and him to start chanting Tar Heels on game day? No, I think the Duke-Carolina rivalry went down a notch because of that. Tell me what Michigan, Ohio State, whether that's a basketball player, whether that's a football player, what coach or player is chanting? You telling me Hutchinson, when he eventually goes to the media, is going to go OH? No, you're going to tell me Urban Meyer is going to start chanting Go Blue? No. And Jay Williams sits there on game day and goes, Tar Heels, Tar Heels. Like, if I'm Carolina, I'm booing him for saying that. Like, no. You can't say that.
Clearly he's a sellout. Yeah, clearly he's a sellout.
And I can't, like, the Duke-North Carolina rivalry went down a notch for me because of that. You can't do that. I don't, like, everyone talks about.
I don't know if the rivalry went down. I think people just maybe lost respect for him, which is, like, rightfully so.
But what alumni, everyone talks about, it's with you forever. You'll hate them for the rest of time, this and that. Well, clearly they don't hate each other for the rest of the time because we got Jay Williams who's just sitting there going Tar Heels and his wannabe Pat McAfee art.
That's probably more what it is. Either that or he lost a bet, or maybe he's just trying to be different or create.
No, he's just trying to be Pat McAfee because he does that with the crowd. Maybe. And Jay Williams has never done that with anyone. Like, he doesn't chant when they went to Texas Tech. He didn't say anything. When they went to Kansas, he didn't do anything. No, he gets to Carolina and he's saying that. And Jay Billis is right. He goes, "You're such a suck up." Live on air. Yeah, he is. and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
knocked down the Duke North Carolina rivalry for me. That 100%
Yeah.
did. I would
Mm.
tell you Kentucky Louisville is a better rivalry than Duke North Carolina at this point. Yes,
Come
it
on,
is.
man. It's one guy in the media that did a stupid thing that sold out.
The stories I've heard from coaches
I'm
and
sure.
players in
Yeah.
Kentucky Louisville is insane.
I'm
That's
sure.
insane from the source. And
Yeah.
no. Louisville,
But I
Kentucky
think-
might be bigger than Duke Carolina. Might
But
be.
you look at the last one.
And they
I'll
play once
just
a
go
year.
by. I'll just go by the matchups. Look at the last 100 matchups of Duke and North Carolina. I think they're separated by literally just a handful of games. I think it's like 2 games they've been separated by in the last 100 years. Michigan, Ohio State are only separated by 2 in the last 100 years, by the way. Ohio State leads it. But outside of that, I think they're only separated by a handful in that stretch of time. So in terms of the
but
even matchups, in terms of the
They play
proximity,
each
the
other
overall
like 3
talent,
times a year.
but I don't think either of us can really get a grasp as to how intense that rivalry
Oh boy.
in that building. Like
I
if
have
we're
no
in
idea
like
what you said.
Cameron Indoor, yeah.
You
Sorry.
cut out there.
All right, I'll start over.
Restart.
I just kept going just because I thought I was still. Anyways,
Restart.
I don't think you can really truly get a grasp as to the intensity of Duke in North Carolina without being in that building. And I can say the same thing about Kentucky Louisville. I know about how intense it is because they get intense about ACHA hockey. I mean, let alone everything else they do. It is an unspoken hatred, or it is a spoken hatred, but they don't like to speak the name of the other school. You get a lot of that in Michigan, Ohio State too. But for Duke, North Carolina, it is the how close the rivalry is overall record wise, the proximity, the state, especially with it. I don't know. And I think the image of the Duke crazies, reaching over and damn near, like pulling in the player from the sidelines as he's trying to inbound it. I don't know how he has any space, but I think that would give us a newfound respect for just how intense it is. That's why it's on my bucket list. It's one of the handful of things that I want to do, handful of matchups I want to see before it's all said and done, before I check out. But it's not to say Kentucky Louisville ain't intense. Trust me, I know that there's a level of hatred there.
I think again, you can say, oh, it's only one person in the media, but like that the pure hatred part, it went down a little bit because one of your best players in program history is doing that.
Are you sure he wasn't trolling? That wasn't a troll move from him?
No, he goes, I've never done this because I'm from Duke, but Tar Heel. Like first off, the Carolina fans should not have responded that way. They should have just said, boo. Like that would if that happened.
Well, none of those kids know who that is.
Jay Will, no, probably not.
He's just a broadcaster.
But
Yeah.
no, it's like in terms of pure hatred, it went down a little bit because of that. Because what, like Charles Woodson doing that on the Fox desk? No. Urban Meyer doing that on the Fox desk? No.
No.
Kirk Herbstreit gets booed every time he speaks when he's on game day at Michigan.
They can't even say Michigan. They can't even say the word
They don't say Michigan.
Michigan.
They don't say Ohio State. They say Ohio, which I think the blocking the M's on the whole campus of Ohio State's the dumbest thing there is because like there's so many M's I'm sure around that whole campus. Maybe you kind of also live in a city where there's an M in the name. Just saying. But like it's in terms of that, like it just went down a notch. And I'm not saying like it's not a good rivalry because it still is. But if we're talking pure hatred, it went down a bit because even Tony Barry, who the old CMU coach, like I've heard him say that still doesn't like Louisville, and he was an assistant coach at Kentucky, and it still sticks with you a little bit. So yeah, it still sticks with you a little bit, especially in terms of that rivalry. But just seeing Jay Williams do that a little bit, maybe he was doing it for a troll, but it sure didn't sound or look like it based on what he did on social media. Maybe he apologized. Maybe he did. But I will say I think the best Carolina Duke moment of all time is, again, you can say the Final Four, but I think it's the final home game for Coach K inside Cameron Indoor. Like everything was amped up for it. There was so much emotion. So many former players came back. And to see Carolina, a team that wasn't even ranked, that might not even make it to the might not even make it into the final dance, in the big dance, excuse me, walks in there and beats them, and everyone's just crying and everything. And then eventually that same Carolina team would go to the Final Four, lose in the national championship game, but beat Duke in the Final Four for Coach K's final game. I mean, that's just awesome. I will say they do have some really good moments over Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
But Saturday knocked it down a little bit. And to see Jay Billis during just his facial expressions after, like, they're like, yeah, we got to review it a little bit. His facial expressions was like this.
Yeah.
He was struggling a bit.
I just hope that we're getting back to the, what we had during the primetime Coach K days. That we're getting back
Coach
to that
K versus
era.
Roy Williams.
Yeah, Roy Williams. Yeah, exactly. That matchup, when it was really primetime Duke and North Carolina, because I feel like it's been a little bit of a gap. Obviously, Duke has never really fallen off. North Carolina is always relevant. But but I just feel like they haven't been as intense or as magical of meetings. So to have a buzzer beater in that one, I feel like we're finally starting to get back to that level with these two programs, to where the rivalry is going to take on new meaning. And that's the thing about rivalries. Like, the importance of rivalries comes and goes, because you're going to have eras in which this matchup really means the world. You could even say the same thing about, and I know we keep referencing that we got to stop talking about these two, but Michigan and Ohio State, when one team's lost 8 straight meetings, 9 straight meetings, 10 straight meetings, whatever it is, however long the streak is, you're not necessarily going to look at that as, oh, this is a rivalry. No, it's one-sided. One team kills the other team. I know there's reasons why they don't like each other, but to get both sides to a level to where the matchup actually really means something. Say the same thing about Michigan State basketball. Now it means a little bit more. That first one meant a little bit more than when you marched a Juwan Howard team in there that really had no business winning that game whatsoever. So I'm just hoping that Duke, North Carolina, in what we've seen, at least I saw throughout the course of my childhood, which is both were in the national championship picture, both had Hall of Fame level head coaches, both had a collection of players that were going to go to the NBA and make a difference. And both, at the end of the day, are going to play in probably one of the most hyped games all year. So I think in basketball, I do think it's accurate. I do think that Duke and North Carolina is the biggest rivalry in college basketball. Michigan, Ohio State, the biggest in college football. Outside of that, I mean, you can argue amongst yourself as to where everybody else fits in that pantheon. But I think it's getting back to that level now, because they're starting to both emerge as teams that legitimately are contenders, which, obviously ever since Roy Williams and Coach K both retired, been a little bit different. And they were obviously a part of that crop of OGs that kind of cut out once all the NIL stuff really started to become a big deal. Coach K, Saban was a little bit later on, Roy Williams, but
they realized the playing field got even, had a dip.
Yeah, exactly.
Just saying. Telling me Coach K got RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, Trey Jones, Zion Williamson, Joey Baker for free. Telling me that?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Kyrie
definitely
for
not.
free?
But,
you telling me Duke got that for free?
Dude, but the brand means something, though.
Yeah.
And also in basketball, I feel like it's who you want to play with more than necessarily. I mean, that makes sense in football. Obviously, if you're a wideout, you want a good quarterback. If you're a lineman, you want to, you have your expectations. But I feel like in basketball, more than that,
not
it's
AJ
it's like
though. He went to BYU and he thought people were going to follow him, and nobody followed him.
No, well, that happens too. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, they probably threw some money around, but then again, I feel like that sport is more often than not, you're just like, give me my guys that I know I can play with, that I vibe well with. It's like you really want to play with your friends. Like we even see it in the NBA a lot too. Where was this conversation going? I feel like we've taken a few different angles on this.
No idea.
This first
we can take a break and reset everything.
Oh yeah, let's dip out. We'll come back. When we come back, we'll talk about the Super Bowl yesterday. I know I mentioned this, referenced this a little bit earlier. Just not a lot of star power, kind of underwhelming. Is that the reason why it just wasn't an entertaining product? Are dynasties good for the NFL? Is it good to see a dynasty in the Super Bowl to get people interested? I certainly would say yes. I remember when Brady went to Tampa and went to the Super Bowl. That was one of my favorite ones that I've ever seen against Mahomes. More on that coming up next here in hour 2 of Inside the Game.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind.
Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics,
Letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail.
whether it's a championship win or a legendary play.
NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate.
Call 586-304-4405
And start watching today.
Part 2 of Hour 2 here on Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Make sure you give us a follow wherever you find your social media. Getting into the second part of our conversation, Ryan, I think one of the things that makes, you're talking about earlier, for broadcasters, that the number one thing you're always looking for is a story. Every matchup that I do, and I agree with that sentiment, every matchup that I do, and it doesn't matter who the two sides are, doesn't matter where we're playing, doesn't matter when it is, I will always try to find a story that I can create and curate out of whatever that matchup is, whether it comes from matchup history, individual players, a story with the coach. There's always something there. And the reason why that's important is because it actually makes it an exciting product to watch for people who are interested in watching. If all I do is I just talk about stats and numbers and, here's a jump shot, 2 points, like no one's really going to be invested in what it is that I have to say. But sometimes it's hard to create that story because the matchup that you have in front of you, while there are good angles to it, it doesn't have that thing that really captures
That's why the Malcolm
attention.
Butler storyline was beat to death for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. So good stories, no doubt about it, but it doesn't have that extra oomph to it. It doesn't have that juicy storyline that makes you go, ooh,
Or
that
the
makes
Mike
people
McDonald
really.
youngest coach storyline was beat to death.
Yeah, which is awesome. That's cool, but does that really move the needle? No, it doesn't. And so we look at recent years, Super Bowls that have been a lot better. As much as I hate to admit it, I think Taylor Swift being a part of the NFL picture and being a part of this, like the Super Bowl with Travis Kelce and that whole thing, and obviously Jason Kelce, Mr. Sexiest Man Alive with his podcast he's got going on with his wife. I think all that kind of added up to make that Super Bowl very entertaining. When Brady left New England and went to Tampa Bay and ended up going to the Super Bowl and played against Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's one that in my opinion, I think that's the most exciting Super Bowl, or the one that I anticipated the most, really outside of the Lions run in recent memory that I can remember, because
the newcomer versus the GOAT. Mahomes
Yeah,
was trying to be better. That's why Brady will always be
Exactly.
better than Mahomes. He's won
And I
all
wanted
Super
it-
Bowls.
And that was, in my opinion, that was kind of the game that for Brady kind of put the exclamation point on the GOAT conversation. If he wins that one, it's like, we don't really have to have any more conversations about it. It's done. He is the GOAT. And so star power in a lot of ways, and storylines and drama in Hollywood sometimes impacts games like that, and it makes them more entertaining. It just adds a new angle. I just feel like the game yesterday against Seattle and New England just simply did not have that. It didn't have any of that.
Not at
I
all.
got no problems with New England. I don't really like Boston all that much, just simply because, you know, the city of champions, like they don't win a title in one sport and they're like, oh, we suck, this is horrible. It's like, guys, just wait until the seasons change and then you might win a championship. You know, you never know. There might be one waiting for you. But
They haven't
outside
won
of
one in a
that,
couple of
like,
years.
yeah, that's true. That's
But
true.
no, I think
like, it
dynasties
just
are
there was
good.
nothing.
Dynasties are
There's
great for
nothing
the
that really
sport.
captured me.
No, dynasties are great for the sport because you think about it. Everyone either wants to see it fall or they want to see it continue. And depending on
Yeah.
the dynasty, I like or dislike them. It kind of depends on what it is. Like, I loved the Warriors. I just
Yeah.
loved the way that they played basketball. And the whole dynasty, good or bad thing, kind of reminds me of the Spider-Man. Everyone wants to see a hero, but eventually they want to see the hero die or fall. And that's exactly what it comes to the dynasties.
Yeah.
When it's the Chiefs, I hope they lose because I never liked Travis Kelce. I think he's a bitch and complains all the time. And when he doesn't get the football, he whines all the time, even though there's better options than you, Travis Kelce. And that's why I think there's much better tight ends than you because you don't block. You're a glorified wide receiver. Basically what it is to Travis Kelce. The Patriots never really minded either because, I mean, I didn't really care for him. I guess there wasn't really an unlikable person for me personally. Like, yeah, you could say they
Mhm.
cheated Bill Belichick, this and that, but I never really disliked anybody. I can't think
Mhm.
of any other dynasties like Florida. I don't really have a say in that with the NHL.
Yeah.
The Dodgers now dynasty. Yeah, I dislike it a little bit just because of the way that they're doing their business and handling it all with money.
Hey,
and everything.
Alabama football.
I never cared really for Alabama either because they had so many good players.
Yeah. So
And Michigan was
no,
never in
but
the conversation. And a couple times they
Yeah.
ran up against Ohio State, and I obviously needed Alabama to win. But I guess
Right.
I would root for Clemson against Alabama. But I never really cared for Alabama. I guess because
Yeah.
like looking at some of their natties, they went up against Notre Dame. Glad they killed Notre Dame. They went up against Ohio State in 2020, their last one. I'm glad that they beat them. I didn't mind. I'd rather have Georgia beat Alabama in 2021. I'd rather have that. But dynasties are great. You need that because everyone wants to see them lose or win, and obviously that's the only outcomes that can happen in a Super Bowl. And I thought the whole AFC side of things sucked. Like, if I'm being completely honest, I thought everything sucked, but I also can see it this way. And this is what I was thinking about last night. Who are these quarterbacks? Like, if we look at the AFC picture, Drake May's new. Bo Nix is for the most part new. Justin Herbert really doesn't do anything in the playoffs, so he's kind of new. He's been in the league a handful of years, but he's never really done anything. CJ Stroud just turns the football over time and time again. Sure, Aaron Rodgers is a legend, but at that point, in his career, he kind of stinks. So I'm looking at the whole AFC quarterback kind of rankings here. A lot of them suck, and no one really knows about them. And like you don't have, or Josh Allen's another one that was in it, but obviously he always loses. So and you don't have a Lamar in it, and you don't have a Mahomes in it. Like, it just seemed like it just meh. Like, it just feels like we're like in a transition phase in terms of the NFL, in terms of quarterbacks. And we talked about quarterbacks suck now coming out of college because it's all RPO, read and react. You don't read anything. Look at the NFC side of things. Darnold obviously is new. I still don't think Darnold is like this great quarterback overall. He's got a Super Bowl, yeah, but he's kind of going to be in a category where it's like with Trent Dilfer, like not really good, but you have one.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Nick Foles of the world.
Yeah, you have Stafford in the NFC. I think Caleb Williams is going to be a star. Just, that's his first playoff run. Stafford's obviously still Stafford. Brock Purdy's Brock Purdy. Jalen Hurts has been there, but he gets knocked out early. And then you have Jordan Love, who's consistently inconsistent. So it's like we're in a troubled era, I guess, in terms of NFL quarterbacks because everyone's kind of transitioning, I guess, because you kind of go from like the Bradys of the world and the Peyton Mannings. You have Russell Wilson was in there. Aaron Rodgers was good, now not very good anymore. But Aaron Rodgers was in that. I can't really think of any other like quarterbacks that have retired recently. Phillip Rivers, I guess, but then he comes back, so there's that. But like Big Ben's another one that retired. But like all these great quarterbacks are like kind of gone, and now we're like the new age of quarterbacks where it's like they make a lot of dumb decisions. It's not really reading defenses at the line. It's really a lot of RPO stuff, a lot of short stuff. So I also think that the quarterback doesn't, because what do people kind of feel close to in the NFL? Like, who are they trying to watch? The quarterbacks. You're not watching a running back unless their name is Adrian Peterson or Barry Sanders. You're not watching that.
But I think it is becoming more of a running back heavy league, though.
It is, but I'm saying, are you really gonna feel gravitated towards Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson? No.
You don't like watching running backs?
I'm saying the people, like the overall audience, maybe if you're a true football junkie, sure, you're looking at the running back. But if you're a casual American football, National Football League fan, who are you gravitating to? The quarterback. Drake May sucks. Sam Darnold got carried by that defense and Kenneth Walker. Like, that's basically what it is. And there is a quarterback issue in the NFL. And the good quarterbacks weren't there. Mahomes, not there. Stafford, not there. Lamar, you could say, is a good quarterback or not. He's got a couple of MVPs, wasn't even in the playoffs. Josh Allen bounced before that. Like, no, there was no good quarterbacks. Like, in the final, no, Stafford was in there, so I can't say that. But there was no good. Jarrett Stidham was in the AFC. Imagine if Jarrett Stidham was playing last night instead of Drake May. Jeez, that would have been bad. It would have been the Seahawks. It would have been it would have been the exact same thing of Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl with the Broncos against the Seahawks. But no, it's just like there's no good quarterback in the Super Bowl. There wasn't.
Yeah, everybody wants to do what the Niners do. Everybody wants to get a Brock Purdy system quarterback who can fit in and they can scheme their way into wins, which is, I guess, is one way of doing it. But it mostly has just been necessitated by, you're right, a bad crop of quarterback talent in the NFL. And that's what has kind of made the running back position more important. But at the same exact time, there are more teams at this moment who are just looking for their franchise guy. And I think that's the thing. Everybody is obsessed with just trying to find who their franchise guy is. And sometimes that means changing the guards very frequently. And we see that a lot. But a lot of the career guys, a lot of the vets just were not in the postseason picture. Obviously Josh Allen fell short. Lamar, we didn't get to see in the playoffs. Jared Goff, we didn't get to see in the playoffs. Yeah, we saw Aaron Rodgers, but I also just feel like
that's not the Aaron Rodgers we know.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I don't know. I think he's just getting too old. But yeah, I mean, it is, and I'll agree with you. Like, in terms of on the field, I think the most important position from a football aficionado perspective is probably offensive tackle. Because if you don't have a good offensive tackle, your quarterback is going to get murdered. But especially I think in tackle. Terms of specifically.
Shout out Will Campbell,
Mr.
Awful
Blindside
last night.
By the way, we should talk about the Hall of Fame class. That would be an interesting conversation to talk about at some point. Luke Kuechly, I saw that video. That was really cool. But I would say, again, from an on the field performing, like, this is, you have to have a great left tackle. But from a cultural relevance, popularity, media, in the face, in the news, kind of head of the football team, the CEO in a lot of ways, that isn't working in the front office, but he's the most important player who wears a uniform, is the quarterback. And so I think that's why I think the NFL and some of these organizations sometimes they look at the San Francisco model and they go, you know what? If we just get a system quarterback, right, a younger quarterback who's good at making these decisions, he's athletic, he can make plays, then maybe we can build something here and maybe we can get him for long term. But there's just not a lot of franchise guys right now. I think about back in the heyday, you look at, you had Peyton Manning and you had Eli Manning and you had Tom Brady. Every team, every team had their guy. Eli has 2 bowls, man. No Eli disrespect on this show. I love Eli. But anyways.
He's overrated.
We're just not in the quarterback era. And I think that for whatever reason, it just makes it hard. It makes it harder to watch. But you can bet the NFL is going to do anything they can to get Mahomes back in the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, because of how bad this one was. Like, it doesn't. You don't have to have Mahomes in it. You just have to have a good quarterback. Like, Darnold and May aren't it. like if Stafford was in it, that's fine. He's actually pretty good. Lamar, if he ever got to one, that'd be fun to see Lamar on the biggest stage. But it's just like we have a big quarterback issue in terms of the NFL right now. We just do, and that's also default the development of quarterbacks nowadays. It's very
Yeah.
RPO heavy now, and what do NFL teams want you to do? They want you to read defenses. They disguise coverage all the time. What happened to Drake May yesterday? He was sped up and couldn't make throws. He couldn't decipher the disguises, and I'm not saying I could either, but I'm just saying when you're trying to decipher where everyone's going to do all these plays, Drake May couldn't do that. And also doesn't help that your left side of the line absolutely sucked yesterday. The left tackle and the left guard were awful. But it's like Drake May looked lost out there on the world's biggest stage in American football. And there is a big quarterback issue when it comes to the NFL, and that's something they have to fix. And that, I think, also hurt yesterday. Like, we talked about stars. There was defensive stars all over the place. For both sides, there was defensive stars everywhere. But when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, not really. Kenneth Walker, sure. I'd give you Kenneth Walker on the offensive side of the ball. Stephon Diggs, if he was playing 10 years ago, sure. But not Stephon Diggs at 2026.
You want to know why I think that this probably plays a role, and I 100% agree with your point on they're not being developed correctly. I mean, any guesses on how long Peyton Manning spent at Tennessee?
He spent what?
4 years.
4?
Yeah. How long was Brady at Michigan?
5.
You know, how long was all these franchise guys, these older, these quarterbacks that, obviously made, how many years did they spend at their universities? How many years was Mahomes at Texas Tech?
Probably 4. But if I'm looking at the recent ones, Bo Nix was in the league or was in college for like 5 years.
That's true. I mean,
Jaden Daniels was there for a long time. Caleb Williams was there for 3.
Right, but if you're switching schools or if you're switching coaches or if you're bouncing around the way that some of these guys are in the college game before you get to the NFL, I mean, it's tough to develop a player when you're developing under multiple different schools of thought before he gets to the league. Like, it's a lot of these younger guys have had so many different influences in terms of trying to work on their game that once they get to the National Football League, it's like they haven't been developed under one coach or have worked with a certain coach for an elongated period of time. So I think it's also the change in college football because of how much movement and how much turnover specifically at the quarterback position, that the whole idea of seasoning and developing under one coaching staff for the entirety of your playing career, or at least the majority of it, I think that might have something to do with it. They're not as NFL ready now as what they used to be in college football, and they're not. And that's why it's led to what we've seen in the NFL.
So let's go since 2020. Quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, he was there for 4 years. And he was with 2 different teams. Tua was there for probably 3.
For what it's worth, I think Burrow is in the conversation of a quarterback that they would like to see in the Super Bowl. I think Burrow would definitely draw headlines. No. I'm just saying now. I don't think I consider him in the conversation of terrible quarterbacks.
Oh, no. He's good. He just gets hurt all the time, and his team sucks. Justin Herbert was there for a while. He was there for 4. Jordan Love was, I imagine, Utah State. I imagine he was there for probably 4. Jalen Hurts was there for at least 4 because eventually he transferred to Oklahoma his final year.
Yeah.
2021, Trevor Lawrence was there for 3, same team. Zach Wilson was there under the same team. Gosh, remember Trey Lance? Jeez, North Dakota State. What shout out? They're going to be the FBS next year.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Justin Fields was trash. Mac Jones was trash. Again, that's also when you have Jalen Waddle. Who are the other wide receivers? Devontae Smith. You had all those wide receivers. Kyle Trask wasn't any good. Kellen Mond wasn't any good. 2022. Jeez, this was horrible. Kenny Pickett, he was an older player. Desmond Ridder was older. Malik Willis, who's a really good backup quarterback. Matt Corral, I remember him. He sucks. 2023. Jeez, this is another bad one. Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud went 1 and 2. Stroud was there for 3. Bryce Young was probably there for 3. both same teams. Will Levis, he was probably there for 4. And the old Hendon Hooker at like 24 years old drafted in the 3rd round. He was god awful. You also had old ass Stetson Bennett in there too. 2024, a little different story. Caleb Williams, but he was under the same coach for all 3 years. Jaden Daniels, he was an older player. Drake May at Carolina the whole time. Michael Penix, he was an older one, but he went from Indiana to Washington. JJ was there for 3 years. Bo Nix was an older player, but he was at Auburn to start. He had a good start to his career, but then kind of flamed out at Auburn. Spencer Rattler, who I'm glad sucks at football. He's a douche. What about Joe Milton? How about him, Joe Milton? And then last year, Cam Ward, he was an older one because he started at a JUCO.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, JUCO, and then Jackson Dart. It wasn't horrible. I mean, jury's still out on him. Tyler Shaw, whatever. Jury's still on him. But then Jalen Milroe won't do anything. Dylan Gabriel won't do anything. Maybe Shedeur Sanders. McCord, Will Howard, Riley Leonard, Graham Mertz, Cam Miller, Curtis Rourke, and Quinn Ewers won't do anything in the NFL. But I don't know. I think that in terms of that argument, I think a lot of these players are older. I just think it comes down to a little bit of different system. You have to learn so many different systems, and a lot of these teams don't run an NFL system, and and a lot of them struggle. It's a lot of RPO. It's a lot of read and react.
The college game is influencing it for sure. I mean, the way that the college game is played has continued to influence the NFL. I feel like there used to be a pretty stark difference there, but they're less indistinguishable than what they used to be. You know, obviously quarterbacks being dynamic and mobile is more important, I feel like, in the NFL now than what it ever used to be, you know, especially with a lot of these big pocket passers that couldn't move. I mean, a flagpole is more athletic than Tom Brady, you know, but Tom Brady was also just such a systematic mind and so, you know, film oriented that he could just find a way to make it work. But yeah, they don't, yeah, to your point, it just doesn't seem like a lot of them are NFL ready. And maybe it's just because they were surrounded by so many weapons in college. Maybe it was because, again, they just kind of fit into that system and they didn't have to be special or exceptional, or they just had so many weapons around them that they just ran through everybody. So, but yeah, it is a weak class, and it does create a little bit of a unique situation. But one of those quarterbacks that we wanted to talk about, you actually just put it on the list. And I will read it off verbatim here. Drake May blows.
He does.
And so we're going to talk about that on the other end when we come back here on Inside the Game, episode 225.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind.
Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics.
Letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail.
Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play,
NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate.
Call 586-304-4405
and start watching today.
Back live and Inside the Game, final portion of hour 2, and then we're going to get into question of the day, but I want to give Ryan an opportunity to talk about this one because one of my favorite topics on our rundown sheet this morning was, quote, Drake May blows. He just lost the Super Bowl. It's probably the most painful loss in his life, but we're going to take this opportunity to pile on a little bit. So, Ryan, you have the floor.
Should. Yeah, Drake May, horrible performance in the playoffs. Been horrible the whole time. I mean, the Chargers, not really good. Not really good since their whole offensive line just died. And then we go into the Texans game. The only reason they won that was because C.J. Stroud turned the ball over 5+ times, and then they were gifted short field position. I'm sure the average of their yards to go to the end zone was probably like 45 yards or something like that because C.J. Stroud couldn't do anything. And then you go into the snow of Denver against a backup quarterback, and the Patriots defense, really did a good job. And for the most part yesterday, the Patriots defense did a really good job, trying to contain a Kenneth Walker, contain Jackson Smith and Jigba and Sam Darnold. And, ultimately they got them down in the red zone and they forced field goals, which if that's a defense, that's fine. That's a win for you, especially in a big game like that. But that offense was horrible. And I think a lot of that has to do with the Seahawks defense. I mean, that defense was unbelievable. I think they had 6 sacks, which I think is 1 sack below a career or a Super Bowl record, which was tied for like 10 seconds that they had 7 sacks, but then eventually got called back to 6 sacks. But no,
Yeah.
Drake May just looked sped up. He didn't make easy throws. There were some easy throws that he missed, and if he completes them, that's like 30, 25, 30-yard gains down the field, and you're set up in really good opportunities. And then some of the throws he was making, not all of them were intercepted, but it's like, why are you lofting a rainbow throw that's like into triple, quadruple coverage into one wide receiver? It's like, what are you doing, Drake? And I think ultimately the narrative of easiest schedule, easy playoff schedule, Patriots are frauds, Drake May isn't that good, finally caught up to him in the world's biggest stage, and that's not necessarily where you want to get exposed like that and everyone to prove you right or prove you wrong and eventually them be right. That's not really the best spot. But Drake May, it just seemed like all night long, shout out Lionel Richie, just didn't do anything. Like, he didn't look good at all. And it didn't help that his offensive line, I understand the offensive line didn't do anything. Will Campbell and the other rookie that at left guard, I can't think of his name, just didn't help him at all. And the Seahawks defense was really good, but the Seahawks defense wasn't doing anything spectacular. They were like, you know what? Let's go man-to-man. Let's send the house. Let's mix in a couple of blitzes, and Drake May couldn't figure it out. So, and they couldn't get the ground game going, too, so that didn't really help him either. But, no, it just really struggled Drake May, and he fumbled the football, and I think he had 2 picks. I think he had 2 interceptions. So, no, just a rough night for Drake May, and ultimately, I don't think the Patriots even make the playoffs next year.
It's not a crazy thing to say. I mean, we've seen that before in this situation. Look, I mean, defense is what got both of these two teams to the Super Bowl. And I think I was more impressed by the Pats getting there simply because of, I mean, yeah, they played less talent, but, that young offensive line yesterday got exposed. They got exposed big time by Seattle. And the truth is that you can only do so much when you're under that much pressure. For Drake May. I understand he hasn't been exceptional in the playoffs. We talked about the kind of lack of quarterback play and how really the Pats just kind of did it by committee this entire playoffs leading up to the Super Bowl, because you can't lean on Drake May right now in this part of his career. And frankly, I don't think he's going to be that guy. But that was the most interesting thing was the quarterback matchup. You have one that has obviously been around for much longer, so I would give, the advantage on that end. But it was just two gutsy, grind it out, figure out a way to win kind of QBs. And Drake May is a part of that. But it is a really hard thing to do when you're going up at what I feel is a generational defense in the Seahawks this season, and you have some rookies on the offensive line. I mean, just to get to the Super Bowl with all of that going on, I think is extremely impressive for Mike Vrabel and for that team to get all the way there. But yesterday was just, it was a showcase defensively for Seattle. And again, there's only so much you can do. When you only have a split second to throw the football, you're not going to be able to get much done. So I think it was cool to see Seattle win it the way that I felt like they won it once upon a time when you had Russ and all those guys there, because that's how they won their Super Bowls then too. So, but to say that, yeah, Drake May is not exceptional. He is a, if I were to, good, very good, or great,
Mid.
He's good too. Sometimes he's very good in certain isolated situations in terms of winning football games this year, because he got him there. But I think he's still a good quarterback, but yeah, he's not great. Would I say he blows? I don't know if I would necessarily go that far. I don't know. I would stop shy of that personally. But
I just think that he struggled and couldn't figure out the defenses. And again, this is
Yeah,
not to
well, that's true.
discredit-
Tough to figure out Seattle. I said that's true.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
that it's. I'm trying to discredit Seattle because that defense is unbelievable, and you're 100% right. I was about to say that it reminded me of the Legion of Boom era with the Seahawks, like of how good that defense is. But again, Mike McDonald and them did a really good job of disguising everything. And also, my wish came true that at least Mike McDonald's got a Lombardi now. So in case 15 years vacancy for Michigan, he needs a job.
Come
and
back.
We don't have to hear all the BS.
15 years.
But no, I'm just saying for the future. Or maybe Kyle Whittingham, isn't really that guy, and after he wants to retire, and Mike McDonald gets fired maybe from the Seahawks, just maybe, just putting it out there. But no, I just think that Drake May and really struggled in the biggest moment, and everyone that said it's Drake the schedule May, they were proven right yesterday, and it just looked like the Patriots did not deserve to be on the same. It ultimately looked like Jared Goff in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. That's ultimately what it looked like. But Jared Goff and the Rams, played relatively well up to that point, especially in the playoffs and getting up into the Super Bowl and especially in the regular season. But Drake May yesterday it looked bad. It looked like the moment was too big for him, and ultimately he got exposed. And I don't have his numbers up for the playoffs. But no, the whole playoffs he looked bad. So we look in the playoffs, 268 against the Chargers, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. 179 against the Texans, 3 touchdown, 1 pick. Against the Broncos, 86 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. But again, that's the snow. And then yesterday, 295, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, but also a fumble in there. But a lot of those yards were in garbage time. Like before they, the Seahawks were like, as long as no one beats me over the top, I'm good. Before that, I think he had like 70 or 80 yards, something like that. Like it was I think there was a stat at some point from like the first quarter, from the first drive up until like the midway through the third quarter, they had, out of 8 drives, they had 7 3-and-outs. That's how bad it was. And you can look at he almost took for almost 300 yards and all that. Well, before they started airing things out and the Seahawks were just playing prevent coverage, he did nothing.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of empty calorie stats when it comes to Drake May, but no, he poor performance.
Let's get into question of the day.
Yeah, we can do that. Question of the day, obviously presented by Salt Athletic, one of the official sponsors of us here at the National Soccer Network. Save 15% by using promo code NSN15 on that #1 smell-proof. I think they moved. Yeah, they moved it on me. So it's not
They
even.
took your
I can't even show
bags
it on screen. They moved it on me. My whole setup has been moved, so from the weekend, so I don't have it to show you guys. But anyway, scan that QR code on your screen or visit saltathletics.com today. But if you don't even want to use that promo code to save 15% off and you want to enter for a chance to win a free Salt Athletic bag, just head over to our Instagram right now, which is almost at 3,000 followers. So make sure you drop us a follow there if you're not following us already. Drop us a follow at NatSoccerTV. Tag a friend or comment tag a friend and comment hashtag NSN Salt giveaway on any of those Salt Athletic posts that you see on our Instagram. It's simple, that easy. We have 19 more bags to give away, so for the next 19 Fridays, we'll be giving away a Salt Athletic bag, so make sure you do all that. But question of the day, so I haven't even tested the horn yet since they've, make sure this is right. Okay, good. We're good. Didn't want to be wrong on that.
All right.
But anyway, question of the day. So I didn't do it at the beginning of the show. What's your dream Super Bowl halftime lineup? Because yesterday sucked, and we need to get yesterday's halftime lineups going.
I don't know. Good. Eminem, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and hologram of Bob Marley.
Okay. Okay.
That'll be my combo. Who are you going with?
So I'm
You're gonna go
rocking
old
with.
school, I already know it.
So I want a full Motown concert.
Okay.
We got the
All right.
Temptations, we got Smokey, we got the Four Tops, and then we got Diana Ross. She's in there.
Mm.
And then, am I thinking of anyone else? Oh, no. Throw out Diana Ross. Marvin Gaye. You sing some
Oh, there you go.
Mountain High Enough. You throw Diana Ross
Good
out
choice.
there now.
It's a good choice.
Um,
Good choice.
And then what we do is we throw Bruno Mars in the mix. Why? Because he's so good. So we throw Bruno Mars in the mix with all the Motown people because, if we're being honest, Bruno Mars can play in any era, if we're being completely honest. Like, there's only, like, a few artists that could play in, like, any music era, and, like, you could throw in Michael Jackson, not Michael Jordan, Prince. You could throw in Bruno Mars.
Throw Jordan into any generation, too.
Yeah, you can throw in MJ in any generation, too, if you want, if we're talking basketball here. But, like, no, we can throw all those people in there. Bruno Mars is one of them, and especially – I'm, like, biased now that I'm going to his concert and I'm, like, listening to all of his stuff. So, like, I'm kind of biased in that sense. But, no, that's who I'm rocking with, my dream lineups. Oh, then, honestly, we got to have, like, someone intro. We got to have someone intro this. Like, we got to have, like, some comedian or, like, actor kind of, like, intro it, like, kind of hype it up a little bit. And then I'm rocking with,
coming from.
Who do I want to rock with? Ooh. Keegan-Michael Key, because he's from Detroit, or from Michigan. He's from Michigan, so we're going to keep the little Michigan theme. And you know what the best part is, Nate? We're going to do this all in either Cleveland or Cincinnati because we want to piss off Ohio even more by having an all-Michigan performance just to piss them off even more.
Perfect. Yep, and we're gonna rip on Machine Gun Kelly the whole time. That's gonna be our whole thing. We're just gonna rip into that guy. Yep.
Eminem's gonna pop out too.
Yep. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yep. Hopefully do a bunch of boos. That would be my hope in that scenario. But that's good. That's a stacked one right there. But yeah, happy that we can move on to college basketball. We're coming up on March, man. That is so we got March Madness and we got World Cup obviously as we continue to get closer. You got a comment? Something coming in?
Oh, no. I was just about to say if you saw who's the guy? John Rothstein or whatever. I don't know if you follow him on Twitter. But so I follow him on basketball, or I follow him on Twitter for basketball because, like, whenever he's asked, like, a football-related question, he somehow turns it into a college basketball thing. And immediately after the Super Bowl was over and they, like, got out of the postgame and everything, he did, like, a Dear America thing, and he's like, in 5 weeks, the selection show airs on CBS for college basketball. Are you ready? And he's, like, going over all these storylines, Arizona, Michigan, Duke, and all this stuff. And he's like, are you ready to hop on a ride that you'll never forget or anything like that? Like, it was just crazy. I'm sitting there, I'm like, whoa.
I'm ready. Hell yeah, I'm ready. But that'll wrap up episode 225 of Inside the Game. Again, check us out, National Soccer Network or Sports Nation TV. We got all the all sports platforms up and cooking, so make sure you check that out. Ryan will be posting to that. But until we talk to you guys for 226, thanks for stopping by for another one. We'll see you tomorrow here on Inside the Game.
From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wenger bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.